As I mentioned, this is update, right? So rezoning.
You can keep going.
So the rezoning negotiations happened years ago, right? This is now many, many years in progress. The idea is to get updates. So I just want to remind us of that. We hope, please, that we can be respectful both of our community members, our elected officials, and our city agency and community representatives that are here. I think, honestly, I just want to stress, this is the start of a conversation. We hope that if you have other questions, if you have other issues that you would like to raise, we invite you again to come to our committee meetings. That is different from the monthly meetings that community boards have, where all of the committees come and provide updates and also hear from the community, but it is our committee meetings where we can really, get into more in-depth conversations about issues. So again, we invite you to come. This is the start of a conversation. Please remember to sign up if you want to speak. And I will, I think, just go ahead and pass this off to our city agencies to introduce themselves and begin. Oh no, I'm sorry. First, we will hear from our elected official, Carmen De La Rosa, who represents Council District 10.
Thank you, Diana, and to community board chair members, new and old, welcome, and thank you to our chair, Anthony Viola, for having this important conversation. I just want to center us in that the Inwood rezoning happened almost 10 years ago, and since then, we've seen two mayors. We're in a new administration. We have a new council member. We have a new assembly member. So we are since then, right? So we are in a different administration. But some of us were part of the conversations around the Inwood rezoning. And there are some neighbors that have joined us after the rezoning happened. And so I just want to center us in that reality, that opinions that are given here today, conversations that are happening here today are different and meaningful in different ways to different people. I want to say that my recollection of the rezoning was that there was a lot of challenges. But one thing that it did well was that it brought a community together and it engaged us in a process that whether we loved the outcome or we hated it, frankly, we were able to have a conversation in our community about building housing that hadn't happened since Mayor Bloomberg was in office. I remember that early in the rezoning days, I saw a study that Inwood had not built not one single unit of affordable housing during the Bloomberg years. Now we are in a situation, a housing situation, where we are in a housing crisis, where the census in our city shelters is over 80,000 people, correct? And where 1 out of every 5 New York City public school students lives in transitional shelter. So where we were 10 years ago is not where we are today. And I, as your council member, I got elected to the council in 2021, started in 2022, have taken the position that we have to do everything that we can to house people in housing that is affordable for them, to make sure that the housing that we have in our community is dignified housing. We have a ton of repair issues, crumbling infrastructure, landlord harassment, frankly. We have one of the most rent-burdened communities in New York City, and those problems persist even in different ways from where they were in 2018. They are still here. So I also want to say that since the Inwood rezoning, the city of New York has also passed things like for example, in the council, we fought really hard to make sure that this administration had the money for programs like Neighborhood Pillars and Open Doors, which are preservation programs. We've also been able to work to organize buildings in our district to make sure that where there are unsafe conditions, people know their rights. One part of the rezoning that I think has worked really well from what I hear from folks is the legal services piece that comes hand in hand with the right to counsel, where our community has seen lawyers pretty much save entire buildings of housing that are at risk of eviction. And also, obviously, last year, under Mayor Adams, the city passed a new framework for how land use happens in the city of New York. So I see this as a conversation that continues. It is not one that we're gonna get every answer that we want tonight, but we are grateful that our city partners that are here, that maybe weren't here in 2018, are here to answer some of our questions. I thank the chair and the board once again for opening the space for us to ask those questions. It is only by asking those questions and having these conversations that we are able to hold our city accountable. I know that the first year that I was in the council, I had to fight like hell for $1 million that was promised to us in the rezoning for STEM education in the district. And it was through that fight that we were able to guarantee that District 6 became the first district to actually have STEM education for all. So this work continues even past the time where the rezoning is now a thing of, for some, distant memory, for others, something that we remember very vividly. I wanna say that besides housing, which is definitely the #1 issue in our community, there's also arts, there's education, there's infrastructure issues, and I know that in upcoming town halls, the board seeks to dig into those too, and I'm looking forward to being part of those conversations and helping to answer questions and navigate the new administration that we are in that has an opportunity to build on the Inwood rezoning and make sure, and not build physically, like we're not gonna build new buildings, I mean like build upon the things that are working in the Inwood rezoning to make sure that our community's needs are met. So thank you all for being here. It's your commitment to follow this conversation forward. And I wanna say that I'm excited to see what's to come. Briefly in Spanish, brevemente en español. La resignificación de Inwood pasó en una época política donde teníamos 2 alcaldes atrás. Después de Di Blasio vino Eric Adams, después de Eric Adams vino Zoran Mandani. So, estamos en un espacio político diferente del 2018. Pero una de las cosas que es importante es tener esta conversación para ver las cosas que se nos prometieron a nuestra comunidad, que se han cumplido. Este trabajo no es un trabajo solamente de hoy, es un trabajo que continúa, porque hay cosas dentro de este proyecto que ustedes van a ver que se han cumplido y hay otras cosas que faltan por cumplir. Así que para mí es un honor estar aquí y poder tener este conversatorio con ustedes y espero tener más conversatorios hacia el futuro. Thank you.
I think with that, we're ready to hear from our city agencies.
I'll take that. Hi everyone, I'm really glad to be here today. My name is Sarit Platkin and I'm the Executive Director of Neighborhood Planning and Equity Initiatives at the Department of Housing, Preservation and Development. I joined you all last year for the Inwood update along with EDC. Really glad to be back and glad to be here to do a deeper dive into housing issues specifically, which I know are top of mind for Inwood residents and were really a cornerstone of the plan. We have significant updates to share with you tonight on the progress both to create, preserve, and to protect tenants. And we're joined by a great team. So I have other folks from HPD. I have Melanie from the Manhattan team, Rose from my team, and then we also have Madison from EDC, and Jamar from the Department of Social Services, and we have our community partners as well. So we have Yvonne from the Northern, we have Yvonne from CLOP, and we have Maria from the Northern Manhattan Improvement Corporation. So we're all happy to be here. We have a robust presentation, and with that, I will turn it over to Rose to kick it off. Or actually, I think I'm doing the agenda, so we'll do that. So we're gonna start off with a little bit of background on the 2017 plan, which Madison will share. Then we'll turn it over to Rose and Melanie to provide updates on our tenant protections, affordable housing creation and preservation, and also expanding economic opportunity. And Maria and Yvonne will also provide updates in that section, and then we'll turn it over to Jamar to share more about the kind of legal services and other tenant protection resources, and then turn it over to you all for some Q&A. So with that, I will turn it over to Madison.
Okay, just making sure that the mic works. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, awesome. As Sarit said, my name is Madison Hernandez. I'm with the New York City Economic Development Corporation in our Government and Community Relations team. Really appreciate everybody coming out here and our partners who are joined with us, and especially to Community Board Chair 12 for hosting this. As mentioned, this is one of many conversations that we're looking to host together and provide updates on. Specifically today, we're focusing on housing and some of our human resource services. And so just to give a little bit of background, even though I think the council member said it pretty perfectly about some of the background and why we're here today and how long it's been since we began having these conversations back in 2015. But essentially, just to bring us back, before the rezoning actually happened, there was a long 3-year community engagement process to really understand the pressures that the community was feeling in relation to development. And so with rising prices and with development pressures, how could the city really identify a pathway forward to address those development pressures, but as well address the needs of the community and understand what the goals and the priorities were. So in 2015, there was a call to action that you can go to the next slide. A call to action for this community engagement and creating a vision for Inwood. And so over 2,500 residents were engaged across public forums, either through community board meetings, through workshops, as you see here. And so the engagement really centered on 5 key priorities. And so this included affordable housing and tenant protections, which our HPD partners will speak to today in length, good jobs and local jobs at that, and business support for our small businesses in the area who are experiencing displacement in very large and serious ways, investments in our parks and our schools and our infrastructure, looking at the waterfront access and that infrastructure and how we can create open space within Inwood that is safe, that is accessible, and that is also dignified as well. And then, looking at our arts and our culture and creating opportunities for our youth and for multi-generational purposes as well. And so looking forward to future town halls to really get into the weeds on waterfront, on open space, on arts and culture, but essentially all of these workshops and engagement opportunities culminated in a vision plan that was released in 2017, and that was really served as the blueprint for the rezoning that happened in 2018, and also led to over $200 million in public investments. And so just to kind of recap what the rezoning was as a whole, so the area is rezoned, as you can see here in the pink outline. It is also available online. It's 59 blocks across Inwood, focusing on East Inwood and the Harlem River front. And the zoning changes we saw were replacing older manufacturing and commercial zones with flexible mixed use and resident districts. To allow for the housing that the neighborhood needed. And then also looking at mandatory inclusionary housing, and so requiring permanent affordable housing and the developments that HPD will talk about today. And also having the city council adopt more deeper affordability options as well. And then as well, just to cap it off, we also, within the rezoning was the special Inwood district, tailored zoning to preserve neighborhood character and encourage active ground floor uses, and then the waterfront access plan, which created a framework for new public open space and waterfront connections. Really looking forward to the town hall that'll focus on our waterfronts and our open space with a lot of incredible work that's happened today. But just to recap that today's focus largely on our housing pieces, so the first kind of 3 pieces of the agenda you see here. And so with that, I'll pass it over to my HPD colleague.
Thank you so much. Can everyone hear me all right? Okay. Things Sarit mentioned, but I'm Rose Katie. I'm a senior planner at HPD, the Department of Housing Preservation and Development. Really looking forward to presenting with you all tonight. Thank you. Okay, next slide, please. We can go to the next one as well. Oh, sorry. Should be slide 7. Perfect. So just to quickly recap where we stand today, 8 years after the rezoning for Inwood NYC certified into ULURP, which is the public approvals process. To date, 27 out of the 28 housing commitments that fall under HPD jurisdiction are completed or in progress. We'll be giving updates on these commitments broken out into the following 3 goals. So starting off with the work that HPD has been doing and will continue to do to protect tenants and support homeowners. So we'll talk first about the work we're doing to improve housing stability and protect existing tenants. Here at HPD, we conduct outreach and host resource fairs to educate tenants about their rights and share resources related to maintaining safe housing conditions and other important affordable housing information, like what programs we have available to help tenants in New York City. We committed to hosting these events in Inwood, and since the rezoning, we've held 8 events and reached about 700 tenants in the neighborhood. Beyond offering resources and education for tenants, we're actively working to protect tenants who are facing landlord and building owner harassment. In 2019, HPD established the Tenant Anti-Harassment Unit. This unit uses data analysis to identify potential buildings and portfolios where harassment is occurring, respond to emergency affairs, and connect tenants with legal services resources. This was a POA commitment to establish this new unit at HPD, and since its creation in 2019, the team has initiated 267 litigations, conducted over 6,000 proactive building visits, and collected over $6.7 million in civil penalties across the city. Additionally, HPD partners with the New York State Attorney General's Office, New York State Department of Homes and Community Renewal, and other city agencies on the Tenant Harassment Prevention Task Force. So this task force conducts roof-to-cellar inspections in buildings across portfolios that are identified at high risk for harassment. And you'll hear more about the work that the city is doing to protect tenants later on in the presentation from DSS. Next slide. So next we'll move on to improving housing quality for residents. Establishing a certification of no harassment pilot program is something HPD committed to as part of Inwood NYC. So the program was piloted in designated neighborhoods across the city, including Inwood and Washington Heights, to protect tenants from being harassed in their homes. And when this program first piloted, there were about 150 buildings across Inwood and Washington Heights that were certified into this program. Now the program has expanded citywide, and about 1,500 total buildings have been certified into the program. Relatedly, we want to make sure that we're holding entities who are seeking to do business with HPD accountable, so the companies that are approaching HPD regarding affordable housing development. So HPD conducts integrity checks to ensure that companies are honest, reliable stewards of public resources. And lastly, HPD's Office of Enforcement and Neighborhood Services is also constantly working to enforce the Housing Maintenance Code by responding to resident complaints and referrals to identify and remediate problems with the quality or safety of buildings. We have a huge team of inspectors at HPD who are going out every day to do this work. And this year, in partnership with the Mayor's Office to Protect Tenants and other city agencies, we'll be conducting what we're calling interagency enforcement days. So this is something new that came out of the Mondani administration's housing plan, block by block. So the city will be mobilizing cross-agency roof-to-cellar enforcement days where inspectors from HPD, the Department of Buildings, and the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene will carry out coordinated, scheduled enforcement actions for buildings across the city. Next slide, please. So HPD recognizes the critical role of organized tenants in maintaining housing affordability and preventing displacement. And a program that really highlights this spirit is Partners in Preservation. So this program was piloted in 3 priority neighborhoods: Inwood, East Harlem, and Jerome Avenue. In the pilot program in Inwood, Nimick and Cloth, who are here with us tonight, were the community organizations who conducted outreach and provided individual counseling to tenants that were identified as high risk for landlord harassment in buildings across Inwood and Washington Heights. The organizations involved in Partners in Preservation really help to ensure that tenants know their rights and help tenants organize to form tenant associations to hold their landlords accountable. The pilot program was so successful that HPD, in partnership with the Center for New York City Neighborhoods, expanded the program to make it citywide. And I'll pass the mic over to Maria to expand a bit more on the work that NIMIC did for the pilot program.
Yeah. Good evening, thank you so much. I'm Maria Lizada, the Executive Director of Northern Manhattan Improvement Corporation, or NIMIC, and we serve about 14,000 community members a year. The bulk from Upper Manhattan, and we have an office in the Bronx at 8 Clinton Place, which we opened in 2016 as we're seeing folks either moving into adjacent communities in the Bronx, but still coming to Upper Manhattan for services. And as a settlement house, it's important for us to be in the neighborhoods that we serve. So as Rose mentioned, we were part of the initial pilot for Partners in Preservation, and along with training tenant leaders and really identifying buildings where we were organizing tenants, part of some of our successes includes the Barberry Rose Tenants Union that we formed in collaboration with Legal Aid and Met Council on Housing. And as part of that campaign, we were able to work with the tenants in the Barberry Rose portfolio and get them on the public advocate Williams worst tenants list as they were the number 2. We focused on the Edelstein Tenant Coalition, forming that, the Seaman Block Association. So for us, Partners in Preservation was really about making sure that one, tenants were educated on their rights, but it was also about building coalition, because one tenant can't take on a battle, but when you have an entire building working on these deplorable conditions, there's a different response to it. So that was part of the success of Partners in Preservation.
Thank you so much, Maria. We can go to the next slide. So moving on to some recent changes for Housing Connect, HPD's affordable housing lottery system. So in the spirit of making the system easier for folks to understand, prepare for, and complete the application process, HPD has implemented some recent policy changes. These include reducing documentation requirements and eliminating notarization requirements. There's also going to be a lot more bigger changes that are coming that were announced through the Mamdani administration's new speed report that got published last month. So you can expect to see bigger changes coming to Housing Connect later this year and beyond. Next slide. So switching gears to the work that we're doing to support homeowners in the city, HPD conducts targeted outreach to property owners to provide information and resources on different topics like financial support, loans, financing, tax benefits, also utility assistance and lead hazard reduction. We also host resource events and provide one-on-one counseling through our homeowner help desk. We've held several events in Inwood, but we also regularly host virtual classes for homeowners that are open to anyone in the city. The schedule for those can be found online on our website. Next slide, please. Okay, so getting into the actual preservation and creation of affordable housing, just to give an overview of where we are today. A lot of affordable housing has been produced in Manhattan Community District 12 since the rezoning. So total, we're looking at 4,500 homes, exceeding the POA commitment goal of about 4,100. About 2/3 of those affordable homes were preserved, which also is beyond the commitment that we made to preserve 2,500 homes. We also met our commitment of 1,600 newly constructed affordable homes, and what's important to note is that of those total 4,500 homes, just under half are deeply affordable. And you can see the exact breakdown of affordability in the chart that's at the bottom of the screen. And we're continuing to incentivize and deliver deeply affordable housing in an upcoming project, which Melanie will talk more about in a few slides. Next slide, please. So in our work to advance preservation projects in city-owned buildings, we've used our Affordable Neighborhood Cooperative Program, or ANCP. So also in partnership with Nimick and Cloth, several city-owned buildings in Inwood have been prioritized for preservation. And I'll actually pass the mic back to Maria to share more about Nimick's work on 21 Arden Street.
Oh, there we go, we have our own mic here. So 21 Arden, and I actually said once we completed 21 Arden, I could resign and leave because I have done my job. So the tenants were actually displaced in 2008. It is a 15-unit, 5-story walk-up, and these are our neighbors who were placed in other buildings in the neighborhood because of different reasons, the economic downturn, because of a whole host of issues. We weren't able to complete the project until 2022. That is when folks went back to their homes after being displaced since 2008. And part of the reason why we were able to complete the project, one, the tenants were fierce advocates for themselves. Two, Nimick remained committed to this building pouring in time and resources, to make sure that the tenants got back into their buildings. And then we had to push the city. The city also made a commitment to this, but it was because of the hard work of the tenants who said, we are not giving up on our homes. So you can imagine how the cost went from per unit, it was gonna be about 20,000, and it came out to about 140,000 per unit by the time we completed the project, right? And just to give you some stats, because people worry like, well, now they're co-ops, but who really owns this? So just so you know, 11 of the 15 households originally displaced due to the building conditions returned to the building. 3 of the 4 outside purchasers have prior ties to Washington Heights and Inwood. And the only reason why those other 4 families did not return, one was because passed away, right? A lot of 14 years have passed since they moved out. Another family, the brother just was like, I'm not gonna live here, this has been too much for me, I'm unemployed, and even though we tried to get him back in, he refused to, the day of the closing, gave up on the apartment. And another family, her husband was disabled, and because it's a walk-up, and she was on the 3rd floor, she reneged on the apartment. And so life happens to people, right? And when you take this long, not everyone can go back to their home, but 11 of the 15 families returns home. Out of the sales, and just to give you in terms of affordability, because that is a big question in our community, all 15 units were sold to income-eligible first-time buyers. The pricing was structured to ensure affordability, and there were 2 pathways. 11 of the former tenants purchased their units for $250 or $2,500 based on their income. The 4 new buyers purchased at prices set by the city's restriction, and while new buyers purchased at higher prices, the units remained well below market values. For example, the final unit that we just sold a couple of months ago, the 2-bedroom sold for $125,000. Where can you find a 2-bedroom apartment in New York City for $125,000? At 21 Arden, you can. And then 60% of the units were supported by subsidies to offset the monthly maintenance costs. So 9 of the 15 households received subsidy support, including Section 8, SCREE, and DREE, which is applied toward their monthly maintenance obligations, ensuring long-term affordability for residents. So the next steps, there's a board formation, and the residents are currently in training. We'll continue to monitor the building because we have a responsibility to make sure that this building continues to thrive. And that is our commitment to 21 Arden. It has been a long journey, but we remain committed to the tenants because we need to ensure that these homeowners stay in their communities and that they can afford to live in quality buildings.
Thank you so much. We can go to the next slide. So another really important preservation program at HPD is Neighborhood Pillars. We're really excited to share that the Neighborhood Pillars program relaunched this last year, and this will help nonprofits and MWBEs acquire and rehabilitate multifamily buildings that are currently distressed. So HPD is currently accepting applications for this program, and it is citywide. We also piloted a landlord ambassador program in several neighborhoods, including Inwood. This was a 2-year pilot program in partnership with Enterprise Community Partners to provide technical assistance to owners of multifamily buildings so that they could repair and lease up vacant units. This program has sunsetted, but HPD is really committed to continuing this work. So the next iteration of this program is known as the Owners Resource Center, and it's essentially replacing this program and will continue to be the umbrella for technical assistance. Next slide. So HPD also works to support mission-driven groups in the development of affordable housing on underutilized sites. Many houses of worship and other mission-driven organizations may have available underutilized land that could be home to new affordable housing. So this is work that we're doing across the city in partnership with Enterprise. This year, we announced that HPD will be awarding $1 million for Enterprise's faith-based development initiative to provide technical assistance to faith and mission-based organizations citywide. And this technical assistance will be building on a training series that HPD launched in spring of this year in collaboration with other city agencies to educate these organizations about the affordable housing development process. Next slide. So next, Melanie will be walking us through some new affordable housing development projects that have been recently completed and one that was recently designated. So this map shows where in the rezoning area, these projects are located. Beyond these 3 projects, we're also committed to exploring additional opportunities for affordable housing on public land. So 2 public sites that were also identified are the site of the existing DSNY garage, which is number 4 on the map, and the DOT bridge repair facility, which is number 5 on the map. So redeveloping these sites is a really long-term commitment. So as there are active facilities operating on both sites, and these critical city operations need to be relocated before the sites can be developed for housing. So we're keeping these sites in mind as we think about the long-term future for affordable housing in the neighborhood. And I'm gonna pass the mic to Melanie next.
Thank you. Can everyone hear? No. You have to push. How about now? Okay, great. Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Melanie Rodrigo. I'm a Manhattan Borough Planner with HPD. We're gonna discuss just recently completed projects first. So we have here North Cove. It's a recently completed project in 2025 that reflects a commitment of incentivizing deeply affordable housing that exceeds the minimum MIH, or the mandatory inclusionary housing requirement. North Cove is a 30-story multi-use development along the Harlem River, consisting of 611 new affordable homes, serving households with incomes between 27 to 110% AMI. Also, 15% of the units are set aside for formerly homeless households with on-site support services. In addition to the residential homes, the first 2 floors of the building will feature retail space, including a food bazaar supermarket that is planned to open this coming fall, and 120 parking spaces. Also, the project features a public waterfront park adjacent to the site, which is being redeveloped, led by EDC. And now I'll pass it on to Yvonne to speak on the Inwood Library, the Eliza project.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. My name is Yvonne Sten. I'm the Executive Director of Community League of the Heights, otherwise known as CLOTH. And I want to talk to you a little bit about the Eliza. I'm hoping that most of you have visited the Eliza. It's a very exciting project. I remember during the rezoning, it wasn't so exciting. It was a lot of back and forth, but it was worth it because right now we have in our neighborhoods a very deeply, deeply affordable building. I want to read through a little bit of the stats with you about what the building consists of. Giving people a chance to sit down. The Eliza began its pre-development in 2019 and started construction in 2021. The project start date was delayed a little bit because COVID in 2020 kind of slowed us down a bit. The residential portion of the building was completed in May of 2024. The community facility completion was January of 2025. The total project cost was $102 million. The project consists of 3 major components: housing, the library, the Inwood Library, the ACTS Center, and Universal Pre-K. There are 174 units of deeply affordable housing. 70 of those units will be permanently affordable under the MIH program. There are 44 studios, 76 1-bedrooms, 46 2-bedrooms, and 8 3-bedrooms. The income levels are between 30% and 60% of AMI. The income for families range from $15,000 to $70,000, deeply affordable. The project was financed by HPD's Extremely Low and Low Income Affordability Program, and it's known as ELA. There are 27 formerly homeless units consisting of 10 studios, 12 one-bedrooms, and 4 two-bedrooms, and 1 three-bedrooms. That's for the formerly homeless. The library component is a 20,000 square foot, 2-story, state-of-the-art library that serves everyone. And I really hope that if you haven't been there, that you go. It's simply beautiful. The official ribbon cutting and grand opening for the library took place in July of 2024. The ACTS Center, which is an activities, cultural, and training center, is approximately 17,000 square feet. It includes a teaching kitchen, currently being operated by Emma's Torch, providing culinary arts training and job placement for young people. A performing space currently being used by Jazz Power as their rehearsal and performance space. And a STEM center currently housed by the Inwood Y. They have their STEM program there for the young children. And there's also a sensory room that's in the ACT Center as well. The universal pre-K is not yet operational. DOE is actually the overseer for that. And by September, the hope is that they will have designated a provider to actually start the preschool, the universal pre-K program. We're looking forward to that. The project received over 80,000 applications through Housing Connect. Today, the project is 100% occupied and the residents are enjoying the amenities, which include 14th floor gym, laundry room, a lounge area with a kitchen, an outside roof garden, and there's a larger roof garden on the upper roof with amazing views. And in the lower level, there's a bike room. We really believe that I should be able to live there. Anyone should be able to live there. Our residents in our community, our neighbors deserve to have everything that anybody on Park Avenue has. So the project has won numerous architectural and design awards, including the Urban Land Institute 2026 Awards for Excellence in Development, and has become a reference point for how to build housing in New York City. In the points of agreement, there's also another project that you don't see up there that the city invested in, and it was at 2110 Amsterdam Avenue. Now, 2110 is not in Inwood. It is your adjoining neighbor in Washington Heights. However, it is in the points of agreement that was a vacant building, 5-story, very small building. By itself, it was not able to really be a project. It wasn't financially feasible. We worked with HPD and they were able to combine that building with 3 other buildings, making it a 58-unit project, and we were able to renovate that building. It is now fully occupied, has a storefront which Cloth operates, and in that space, our community health workers occupy that space and are able to give services to the community.
Thank you, Yvonne. And now with the 4095 9th Avenue, Low Istra, which is a new development project here at Inwood. And this reflects the commitment of advancing affordable housing development on publicly owned land. And in December of 2025, HPD designated the project to the development team of Slate Property Group, Zenith Partners, and Community Life to transform the vacant, underutilized city-owned site into a mixed-use, 100% affordable housing with over 600 units for individuals, families, and seniors with incomes ranging from 30% to 80% AMI. And the project features a marine-focused STEM center that addresses the commitment of creating an Inwood Innovation
focused on STEM talent solutions. Also, the project will feature an indoor-outdoor soccer field and a publicly accessible waterfront space along the Harlem River. And in terms of project milestones and next steps, HPD, in partnership with the development team, is working to advance the project forward, noting that the development team met with Community Board 12, the Housing Committee last week. And just in terms of tentative project timeline, since the site was part of the Inwood rezoning and got its land use approvals in the public review process back in 2018, this project is on the shorter end of the land use approvals and is expected to take 8 to 12 months. Approvals would include from the City Council, which will be a public hearing, and a mayoral hearing for approval. And again, as this project is a waterfront site, and it's subject to permits and review from various government agencies, the closing timeline is still to be determined. However, HPD and the development team will provide updates on the progress of this project. And now I'll pass it on to Rose to speak more on the next section.
Okay, can everyone hear me again? Thanks so much, Melanie. So this is the last goal that we'll discuss for the HPD updates, and then we'll be turning it over to DSS. So just this last slide, in the spirit of expanding opportunities for MWBEs in the affordable housing development industry and also expanding local hiring incentives, HPD released the Neighborhood Builders Fast Track Request for Qualifications in March of this year. The goals of this RFQ are to make the designation process more efficient and less onerous for both HPD and the development community, also to fast track the designation process for certain sites that are considered ready to develop. This is also to provide development and capacity building opportunities for MWBEs and for nonprofit organizations. And this RFQ is citywide. The sites are going to be announced in batches, and the first batch is going to be announced this fall. And with that, I will pass it to Jamar.
Thank you so much. And that is not Inwood, so my apologies for that. But next slide, please. I'm Jamar Hooks. I'm Deputy Commissioner for Intergovernmental and Legislative Affairs at the Department of Social Services, and DSS provides administrative support for.
Put it up to your mouth.
DSS provides administrative support for HRA, the Human Resources Administration, which oversees and administers public benefits such as SNAP, or formerly known as food stamps, cash assistance, and tenant legal services. We also oversee DHS, which oversees the homeless shelters and street outreach to New Yorkers experiencing unsheltered homelessness. We have 3 commitments. The first is continue to provide robust, free legal representation, and that is ongoing. We're also committed to continuing to provide proactive outreach to Inwood tenants to provide access to anti-displacement resources, including legal services. That's also ongoing. And then we're required to open a SUS home-based office in Washington Heights, and that is actually done. So next slide, please. Just a little bit of background on the right to counsel. As it came into being as a result of local law passed in 2017, which made New York City the first city in the United States to commit to providing access to free legal services to all tenants facing eviction. The historic law, also known as the Universal Access or the Right to Counsel Law, tasked the Office of Civil Justice, which is in HRA, to plan and implement process programs that would provide all tenants facing eviction in New York City Housing Court whose income is at or below 200% of the federal poverty line with access to full legal representation in their eviction proceedings and brief legal assistance if they're making more than 200% of FPL, as well as legal services and support for tenants in NYCHA. The right to counsel, legal services are free, available in every zip code, and available regardless of immigration status. For support, if you're facing hardships, tenant harassment, or you need support in your eviction, you can call 301 and ask for right to counsel to be connected with free legal services. Next slide, please. So since 2014, the Office of Civil Justice has enrolled over 906,000 New Yorkers in OCJ administered programs. We've represented over 379,000 eviction and other housing-related matters. And in FY25, we enrolled 110,000 people and 51,000 households in OCJ. You're probably thinking, well, what about Inwood, right? So in Inwood, in zip codes 10032, that's Washington Heights, we serve 923 individuals. That includes 1,868, we serve 923 cases, and that includes 1,868 individuals. So the individuals would represent the households, so that includes the children in the household. So that's why it's 923, but 1,868 served. And 133, Washington Heights, we serve 596 cases, or 1,162 people. 10034, Washington Heights / Inwood, 509 cases, 1,042 individuals served. And then Marble Hill, which is where I'm from, we serve 495 cases, and that's 1,333 individuals. So in the fiscal year 25, we served 6,016 individuals in a local neighborhood, which includes Washington Heights, Inwood, and Marble Hill. Next slide, please. We also were committed to establishing a home-based office in Washington Heights. That office is at 516 West 181st Street, so that commitment is done. And home base is basically the flagship homelessness prevention program in New York City. It's managed by HRA. It operates neighborhood-based centers across all 5 boroughs to help low-income New Yorkers and families avoid entering into the shelter system. You know, the council member mentioned that there are 80,000 New Yorkers in the city shelter system, so home base is the first place. If you're a New Yorker that's facing housing instability, home base is literally, as it suggests, your home base where you start the process of retaining and you can connect you to emergency assistance, such as a one-shot deal. And a one-shot deal is basically a rental arrears grant that helps you pay back rental arrears. There's also housing vouchers that they can connect you to, such as the City FEPS program, which I'll talk about in a second. And there's mediation and landlord and assistance with navigating housing court. There's also help applying for public assistance, such as SNAP and other entitlements. There's financial counseling, and then there's employment services as well to connect folks to education, job placement, and career support. So there's 2 locations that are nearby. The first I mentioned, 516 West 181st Street, and the second is in East Harlem, 2322 3rd Avenue on the 3rd floor. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to illustrate a little bit on how many folks we're serving in terms of home base. So I think an important thing to know is that 95% of people that are connected to home base are able to stave off eviction and stay in their home. So home base is a critical tool to help people stay in their home. So in 2024, home base served 69 individuals in the local neighborhoods, Washington Heights, Inwood, and Marble Hill. And in 2025, that number increased to 94. And at 2026 year to date, we're currently at 65, but at this rate, we're set to eclipse the 94 folks we served in 2025. We're on track to serve about 130 people in Inwood in 2026. Next slide, please. We also administer the City FEPS program. And City FEPS is helping New Yorkers to stay in their homes by providing crucial rental assistance to cover rent, pay rent arrears, and prevent evictions. The program limits attendance contribution to about 30% of their monthly income, and then the voucher pays the rest. Is similar to the Section 8 program, but this particular voucher is city funded. It has a income threshold of 200% of federal poverty. The clients or the individuals in receipt of city funds must be on cash assistance if they're eligible, and they cannot qualify for any other rental assistance. So in the local area, there are currently, in zip code 10032, there are 287 active city thefts cases. 10033, that's 301. 10034, that's 427. 10040, there's 242 active city theft cases, and 10463, there are 573, for a grand total of 1,830 people that are being assisted with paying their rent and maintaining affordable homes. So with that, I think that's my last slide, yes. So we will answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, we appreciate all of this information. I think that, I've got a question to kick us off, and then from there, I will give my fellow committee members an opportunity to highlight some of their questions, and then we will open the floor to the public, to give as much time as possible to hear from you directly. So I think that our sign-up sheet we've got it locked in, so thank you very much. I have one very big picture question to begin with. You gave us so many numbers, we really appreciate it. One, will we be receiving this presentation from you?
Yes.
Great, thank you. One of the things I think big picture that I think would be very helpful to us is to we got some Inwood and Uptown specific numbers, but I think we are really interested in getting a little bit more detail. So for some of the projects you did mention, how many units were studios, how many were 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, and 3 bedroom. I did not catch all of that, so that's one of the main things that I'm most interested in. Also, if we can get information correlated to like the income brackets for each of those units. I think that one of the things that we've heard a lot in our committee and just in conversation with our community members is a lot of like studios are going in. So even though there are 3 bedrooms, there will be, maybe 1 3-bedroom, 2 or 3 2-bedrooms, and then the vast majority of the affordable units are 1 bedroom and really even more studios. And so we're interested in knowing what are the income brackets that are going to each of those units. Also, if you can distinguish like the number of units that go for seniors. I'm also, for probably obvious reasons, interested in knowing the number of accessible units and the size as well. That's something that came up at our meeting for June for Housing and Human Services. The size of the units also we're very interested in. And we're excited to have received more information about the project coming up at 4095 9th Avenue. But we're really interested in that level of detail, please. The other sort of big picture question that I had was about the 4095 9th Avenue project, specifically with AMI. And the project obviously is still being finalized, and I know that just some of the partners were selected in December of 2025. The rates, the rental rates, at what point are those set? So if the area median income continues to rise, which is happening in our district, are the affordable rates for rent set based on AMIs right now when the project is sort of finalized or approved, or is it once tenants are ready to move in a few years down the line?
Yeah. Thank you, Indiana. And just speaking on the Little Oyster project, that's the 4095 Ninth Avenue. We did again mention that we met with the community or housing committee last week, and we did mention in depth of the AMI unit mix there. And we mentioned that we would follow up, and we will follow up on providing that range in terms of the income brackets for each of the units. And as Indiana mentioned, this is in its initial phase of the development, so not in terms of a set, just the set of units that will be approved. That will take time in terms of getting that approval from the city council in Merrill. So it's all still in progress, and that's still being discussed internally. And just in terms of what Indiana had mentioned, the accessible units and the size units, and that is all based on what HPD has. It's the term sheets. So with the Little Oyster project, that will be developed under the SARA, which is the senior project, and it's and that has, again, it's compliant with a term sheet, and those have requirements for accessibility and design and considerations there. Also within that project, there's an Ella building as well, and so that will go towards multifamily in households. And again, because HPD has that program, it's based on a term sheet that has to be complied to that program. So there are, again, design considerations that has to be complied with. And again, we will follow up on specifically the exact, I'd say, units going towards that. And that would be more so a percentage, wouldn't give an exact number of it. And I can pass it on to Suri.
Yeah, so I think we'll get it right, guys. Sorry, third time's a charm. I had to be the third one. So yeah, as far as accessibility, so 7% of units in HPD projects are set aside for folks with disabilities, 5% for mobility, and 2% for vision, I believe. And then I think another note, you asked about kind of financing timelines. So those are set at closing. So we, kind of sooner than closing would have a sense of the AMIs, or like more generally, like we would know the term sheets that we're, working towards, and that's something that we engage on during our public RFP process. We engage folks, hopefully some of you were part of these processes where we, talked about who should be served by these projects. That's then, part of the RFP process and discussed, at designation, but like more details are developed to get to financial closing, where kind of the specific exact number of units and AMIs for each of those units are developed at that time, but kind of fall within a general framework of the term sheet. So it's either a term sheet, term sheet might be serving kind of more seniors or supportive housing or kind of low income of various levels or mixed income. So that is what will come later, but yeah, so there's a bit of a road ahead there. But yeah, I think
Sorry,
that.
who decides the AMI? I didn't understand.
Sorry, what was your question?
Sorry, who decides the AMI at closing?
So that's part of the,
Who are the stakeholders that?
the developers are the developers along with HPD, who is financing the program, are the ones that ultimately make the decisions. However, that all of the inputs from the RFP engagement process and kind of at this point also like the extensive engagement through the neighborhood plan before that all kind of go into that decision.
I'm sorry to everyone, but you already have the data. I understand this is very cultured, I get it, it's very.
I understand,
But you understand, you already have the data of how much the folks
board? No, sorry, so we
So,
do,
so don't you use that?
I'm gonna ask you,
to
don't
determine
answer
AMI
the
as well?
question, we do have a sign up, and we have people waiting to speak. It was closed at 7:30, so you
My
did arrive
question
at
is in
that
terms
point,
of
but we
AMI.
are going to move on. Please, no, oh,
It's
not very democratic.
I do,
It's not.
I do have
Well,
I do have a
This is not,
clarifying,
this shouldn't be
a
done
clarifying.
this way.
I mean, we're in the
Making us
neighborhood.
wait half an
yes,
hour
and
to
we
ask
had a
questions.
signage.
She's saying something
You're
that's
gonna
very
get some
important in
signage
terms of
sheet.
AMI. The stakeholders that are choosing are the developers and HPD.
Original adjustment to Q&A.
Wait, I do have a clarifying point. I do have a clarifying point. It was stated, which I think is an error, that the project comes back to the city council for approval. It does not. The city council does not approve the AMIs, nor does it approve the unit mix. We engage in conversation based on the RFP that was put out, and we give feedback on the AMIs and the unit mix. If we, I always say, I want more affordable housing, more unit, but it is not renegotiated. So I think that answers your question. It is set based on the conversations that happened when the rezoning passed. That is what it is set under. That is the rubric under which it is set. So then the city goes back with the developer and HPD, and then they go back, and then they present what that mix is to the community through an announcement, as you've seen when the Housing Connect announcements come out. That's usually how it works. I have never, in the 5 years I've been in the council, been asked about any project, like, do you agree with this AMI? That doesn't happen that way. So I just want to clarify that piece, because it does not come back to the council for any renegotiation.
And you have the data of how much people earn in this neighborhood. You don't need to do a public process of asking people things. You know how much people earn. You know how much people earn here. So we don't need to do a whole process to figure out what the AMI is. Developers don't need to decide that.
Again, there are people that signed up,
Sir,
we're not
it's
gonna
okay.
devolve
We've
this
been
into.
here. It's
Yeah,
not-
understood.
Thank you.
For this for 10 years.
For sure, so if you sign up, you
Don't
have
beg
to
our face telling us things like we're new here. No, that's it. Thank you.
Anybody else have a question about the panel?
Yeah, okay.
It's okay, we're not comfortable, it's all right. It's not a joke, it's not a game.
All right, I think I'm gonna ask a couple of questions and then, I think we have maybe, Lisa, I don't know if you have a question and then we'll go to public session, is my understanding?
Let me just say one thing, I hear you. I also, I understand that there are lots of questions, so I know that we can't get to everything today, so I really do invite you though to come to our monthly meetings because you do have a committee that's very interested in learning this too, and we're happy to engage and follow up too.
Thanks. So I have two questions. One is a little more specific. We didn't get into this and I know there aren't representatives from DOT or DSNY here, but I'm aware of the facilities that haven't yet been, there hasn't been much progress on that, so I'm hoping to get an update on what timeline we're working with there, if you have any. And a more big picture question for folks who are maybe not part of the community board or who aren't an elected official and want to keep track of where these points of agreements are for the ones that are in progress. How can we monitor that progress beyond these meetings?
Great. So I think, I'm gonna stand up. I think most importantly, and we probably should have said this up front, the city is gonna be publishing updates to the points of agreement tracker in the next month, and that's for Inwood and actually for all of the rezonings. That's gonna get updated. So right now, some of you may have seen, it's on a website, that's a little hard to use. It's gonna be updated and create a new platform is gonna be created that's gonna be easier to search through. So we're really excited about that. So we will share this presentation with you, but you're also gonna get a detailed point-by-point update within the next month. And then I think as far as the bridge repair facility and DSNY facility, yeah, I mean, that the update there really is what Rose shared during the presentation, which is that, these are sites that have, active critical uses on them. So in order to relocate them, that really is a long-term process. I think I don't have a specific timeline for you today, but I can say that, we're working on it, but these are very much a part of bigger picture, citywide conversations about where critical facilities should be sited. So it's hard to kind of separate this out from larger conversations. Yeah.
Thank you. I think in the interest of time, I want to let our community members have the time to speak. I will just make one more big picture request. I understand, programs like the tenant anti-harassment unit, you gave us some numbers, but we're really, really interested in like numbers for Inwood and for Community Board 12. So, we've got like some big picture numbers of the several programs and initiatives. I believe some of them were specific to our district, and some of them were citywide numbers. And so to the extent possible, we're really hoping to get like nitty gritty, basic
Understood.
and
So-
things like that.
We did provide, to the extent possible, the numbers that we could provide for Inwood, and happy to pull back up the things that we have. I think there's a lot that we are able to provide at the local level, but for some of these citywide programs, yeah, we can do another push to see what we can get, but we were definitely aiming for that and understand the value for sure.
Understood, and if nothing else moving forward then, it's a conversation about how do we better, more closely track, especially because as budget, discussions come up and things like that, it really makes a big difference to say, we helped 5 people in our district or we helped 50 families in our district. So I will leave it at that, and then I will defer to our district manager, who I think will begin calling up community members to speak. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. So, quick reintroduction. My name is Anthony Viola. I'm the chair of Community Board 12. For those of you who don't know what a community board does, we are an advisory group comprised entirely of volunteers. So we have members of our housing committee here today, many of whom have participated in conversations and understand the importance of tonight's conversation in particular. When I came on as chair of Community Board 12 less than 6 months ago, one of the first things I asked our chair of Housing and Human Services was, let's find a way to do a number of town halls throughout this year and in the future on this subject in particular. But I've also watched a lot of our meetings devolve into chaos when there aren't strict structures in place. So for over an hour after us opening at 6:30 p.m., when we started, we allowed folks to sign up. And many of you are currently waiting to speak, even though there is someone trying to go in front of you and didn't sign up at 7:30 p.m. With that being said, we are going to open it up. And the way we operate is each person, yes, we're getting to that point. So, if you signed up, you will have an opportunity to speak. Okay, so we're going to now allow folks to speak, those who signed up before 7:30 p.m. And once you hear your name, you're gonna come down, you'll have an opportunity to speak for 2 minutes. After you've spoken, whether you provide comments or ask questions, we'll allow our agencies to respond. With that, I'm now going to take a look at our list. And I will ask the first speaker, Rudd Morals. Come forward.
Terrible.
You will have,
2 minutes.
yes, you'll have 2 minutes to speak. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ruth Morales, Chairman Community Development.
Put
I
the
am from
mic to your mouth.
Here, thank you, hi. Ruth Morales, Chairman Community Development. I am on the landlord side. So we are from the corridor on the 9th Avenue. I represent that part of the landlord. And I have a question. And my question is.
Use the mic, please.
We can't hear you.
Mike, we
I'm
can't hear
sorry,
you.
I
In your
am
mouth.
not used to the mic, I'm sorry. So I have a question, and my question is regarding the Inwood Point of Agreement, item 16, which is the DOT side. The DOT side under the Point of Agreement is supposed to be relocated to Port Landing, North Cove. Being on the construction side, we are in contact with the people from Port Landing. There is about $2 billion project that is going to be happening of affordable housing and a lot of construction in that side, Port Landing South. So, talking to them in the last couple of days, they're going through the rezoning in the North Cove. In that particular area, the DOT side that is over here in 205 was supposed to be relocated in the north side. So how this is going to be affecting the relocation, because that side was supposed to be for affordable housing, and it's been promised to the community for I don't know, since we were signed, it's on the Point of Agreement, the relocation of the DOT side. That's one, and I just want to point it out, Young and WBE for the city and the state of New York. Since the rezoning happened in 2018, There's been over $2 billion in construction happening in the community, over $2 billion. There is nothing related that is being protecting the small business in the community. I want to point it out, this is a big item. You know, I reached out to Councilwoman a couple of months ago. I haven't been able to sit down with her about that particular NWB issue. And I also want to say there is a lot of help that we need as small business, because as the construction happening, rezoning happening, the small business, yes, the small business doesn't have help when it comes. Construction goes from 250 square footage to 350. Thank you.
I offered you a Zoom meeting and you said no.
I know, but I was in person. Whenever you have time, you don't have time, it's fine.
If you want to reiterate.
No, that's fine, I think, okay.
Yeah, thank you, Ruth, thank you so much for that comment. I think what the site that you're talking about, this is the same site that that we got another question about a couple minutes ago. So tonight, kind of the main update about the DOT site is that it's still being looked at, and that the city is really committed to finding additional public sites for affordable housing in Inwood, and that we haven't identified a site to relocate that facility to yet, which is the #1 step that needs to be taken for affordable housing to be built there. So the city's still working on it.
Thank you.
Okay, the next thing on the list, someone signed up as Sherman Creek Development.
That was me.
Okay, got it, thank you. Next is Matthew Simpson, Small Business Access.
Good evening, I'm Matthew Simpson. Everybody can hear me? Perfect. Thank you, everyone, for being here and hosting this. I'm a resident of Washington Heights and a small business owner in the neighborhood. I have a question about the commercial side of 2018 rezoning vision. As thousands of new residents move in, they will need more than housing. They will need access to businesses and services that support everyday life. My concern is that C8 commercial zoning is extremely limited to non-existent throughout Upper Manhattan. For small businesses owners like myself looking to expand into Inwood, the availability of appropriately zoned space is a significant challenge. My question is, has the city evaluated whether the existing supply of C8 zone land is sufficient to support future residential growth, or whether additional zoning tools, thank you, may be needed to ensure residents have access to the full range of services that make a neighborhood functional and complete? One last thing, and how does the city envision businesses that require this zoning finding a path into neighborhoods like Inwood? Thank you.
So I don't know if EDC wanted to provide a response to that. So our points of agreement tonight, we're focused on just the housing ones. We are doing a number of these throughout the course of the year, but if you did have anything you wanted to share on that particular question, or if you wanted to defer until a later one.
Now that we have the question, I'm certainly happy at a future town hall, or even before then, to provide a more substantive update with our partners at SBS. They're not here today because we're focused solely on housing and on human resources, but happy, noted on your question, and I'll reach out to our partners on SBS next week.
Great, thank you. And then again, specifically, we will have a town hall on the small business points of agreement from the Inwood rezoning. Next is Bennett Melzak. Bennett?
Anthony, should we do a call two at a time like we do at our?
Oh, like queuing people up? Yeah, I'm gonna queue people up like we usually do at our general meeting. So if you hear your name, come step over here to my left, your right. Next is Lena Melendez, followed by Tiffany Lee. Bennett, you'll have 2 minutes.
My name is Bennett Malzak. I'm a lifelong Inwood resident. We were struggling for a long time with Northern Manhattan not for sale. We won against the rezoning, then we lost it in court. With all the massive development that's happening in this neighborhood, There's only 1,600 affordable housing things? Who's making all the money off of this? What developers are making all of the money off of this? What happened? What happened to the rezoning that was supposed to provide so many services for this neighborhood, which never seems to have happened? I mean, Drums Across the Hudson can't even get funding to come back next year. So where did all the,
I gave them the funding, they're coming back.
okay, so where did seriously all the money go, and where did all the apartments go if there's only 1,600 with all the massive development that's happened? Thank you.
Clarify that it's actually closer to 5,000 affordable housing units. Just want to make sure that came through to everybody. So yeah, 4,500 affordable homes.
What percentage
Yeah.
of those are from this district? This sector?
These are all within the rezoning area. So yeah, that's what we're looking at here. And I just wanted to make sure that was clear to everybody. Thank you. Which, as we stated, exceeded what was committed to during the rezoning. So 2,500 were committed, 4,100 were committed, we're up to 4,500 now. So we have.
1,600 is new construction, the others are preservation.
Right, and we have.
That says CD 12.
We
Is
have.
that entire community board 12?
And that was what was committed to, and we have achieved what was committed to.
It's 1,600 new ones with all of the development that happened.
The development here was
That's what
always.
was-
Right.
That's what we're sharing, that's what was
Affordable housing, 12,000 units overall.
Okay.
That's the whole.
Next is Lena Melendez. Lena, once you begin speaking, you'll have 2 minutes.
Incorrect.
So, I'm a lifetime resident of Washington Heights, and I've also lived in Inwood. And what I've seen historically is that MIH and the rezonings are pretty similar to other city plans that have just blown out neighborhoods. And that's one of the reasons why we were so skeptical and sort of afraid of what was to come with the rezoning. Especially with, the mayor de Blasio being the person, the mayor at the helm at the time. And he was found making, backroom deals with developers, one of them Capolino, who wanted Inwood. Inwood and Washington Heights is one of the last truly immigrant neighborhoods. Back in 2018, we had roughly 180,000 residents. According to the 2024 New York Times, we've lost 14% of the total residents and nearly half of its youth. Thank you. The community engagement was abysmal. EDC, you're a new face, but the people that were here, it was abysmal. There was no Spanish translation, there was no community engagement. That was all happy horseshit. The MIH that we struggled to get the numbers that we see in the library, which I think is a bright spot, but still not enough. There was no studies done on the racial impact of rezonings that decimated communities of color in Long Island City and in Williamsburg. Those communities were just blown right out of the water, and that's what we're afraid that's going to happen here.
Okay, thank you. Anyone respond to that? Before Tiffany speaks, I just want to queue up the next 3 speakers. So if you hear your name, please queue up over to my left, your right. Ampatu Moyano Kondia, followed by Aisha Ogilvy, followed by Allegra. Tiffany?
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Tiffany Lee. I'm the Executive Director of Altagracia Faith and Justice Works, a faith-based, community-based nonprofit in Inwood. I was a resident of Inwood when this started. I'm now a resident of Washington Heights, but we were also part of the Northern Manhattan's Not for Sale Coalition and very involved in this, since the beginning. I have a few questions and maybe one clarifying question, but the first question I had was, how does the new City of Yes plan relate to the Inwood rezoning? If anyone could elaborate on that a little bit, I'm curious to hear. I also was wondering what the 9th Avenue waterfront development looks like in relation to what's existing on 9th Avenue right now. And then also just, I guess, the clarifying question around AMI, when the term sheets and the agreements were developed, when this whole process started at those levels, I know it's like 30% AMI, et cetera, but like those real numbers have changed significantly over the last 10 years. So is it committed to what those numbers were in 2018 or what those numbers are now? Because just on a quick look, it looked like the AMI in 2018 was 93,900 for a three-person household in New York. Currently, it's $152,700, whereas our zip code is 67,000. 10034 is 67,754. So just clarifying those points.
That's why I asked a question about AMI, thank you.
Yeah, so I think to answer the question about AMI, thank you for that question. So this relates to the question that we had up front, which is that you know, you are pointing out one of the challenges of affordable housing development, that there is, you know, a lag. You know, HPD has a long affordable housing pipeline. We're trying to get to all of the sites that are in our pipeline as quickly as possible, but between 2018 and when the financial closing is, there is a lag. So the financial closing is when those incomes are set, or the rents are set, I should say. And so that's when the AMIs are set, unfortunately. So there is a bit of a lag there. I want to be totally transparent about that. And that's kind of like broader citywide, big affordable housing pipeline issues that we're dealing with. I think the 9th Avenue waterfront question, I think I need, maybe if you could reiterate that one, sorry.
You don't have to come all the way down.
Yeah.
Just say it.
Just
What it is today was the question.
yeah, in terms of what's existing on 9th Avenue, how is that going to change?
Oh, how is that going to change what's on 9th Avenue today? Yeah, I think that's a great question, something that like I, would be happy to engage with you all on. I think that's a project that obviously like Melanie can speak to that project in greater detail of how it is responding to the surrounding context in terms of the uses there. Yeah.
So just speaking on that, what's existing right now is, again, it's a vacant, underutilized site. Right now, it's an MTA parking lot. Is that?
Yeah, but how are we responding to the surrounding context with the mix of uses on the site and what's
Correct.
nearby? Yeah.
And with the waterfront park, that's in terms of complying with the waterfront access plan within the special Inwood.
Yeah, and I think there are also a number of like community facility uses and commercial uses that are also under consideration or there as well,
yeah,
right?
And that project will feature that.
So I think what we're really excited about with that, as far as kind of, you're asking about surrounding community, there's kind of new community services that are, coming to the site. So kind of in that sense, I think really strengthening the community, both creating affordable housing and a range of services that we think provide a lot of added value to the community and surrounding area.
Does that answer the question?
Oh yeah, and City of Yes.
Just to clarify, this project had gone through a community visioning report where we had community engagement with Community District 12, Inwood Community. This was back in 2024, and we got feedback from that engagement, and that led us to the RFP that we put out, which that RFP is a request for proposals. And that in terms of, we designated the project to the development team, which then had proposed.
There's already water, I saw it because I get the email, there is already a contractor that's gonna get built that side. That's the 218 side. The side that she's asking is by 207, because she is by 207.
Okay, so the Loistra is, yeah, that's not within, yeah, it's further up, that,
Yes, the site that you were speaking is already in progress. And you have, last year, HPD came to the neighborhood, to the school, and we went through the process, the presentation. It was last year, 2 years ago. The site that she's asking right now is right here by 205. She's at 205. 205 and 9th Avenue. That's the DOT side, that's the side that I was asking. And that particular aspect also have.
Okay, sorry for the confusion. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
We already answered the question about the DOT lot.
Yeah, we answered the question about the DOT lot. Sorry for the confusion.
That will be the second meeting.
Apologies.
Yes.
Okay, City of Yes for Housing Opportunity, yeah, so apologies about that. I think City of Yes for Housing Opportunity, I think, here, I know there have been a lot of conversations in the last year, of course, around City of Yes, and as far as, within Inwood, obviously there were kind of big changes that happened with the rezoning, underlying zoning.
You want me to speak to it? I just really start. So during the City of Yes negotiations, basically what we were able to do is keep the Inwood Special District intact. So they cannot add on top of the Inwood Special District because the community was adamant that that was one of the bright spots that happened in the rezoning, the preservation of that character. And the second piece of it that I know the community was interested about was this conversation around parking. We were able to negotiate and make sure that our community is zone 2 for parking, which means that there's an incentive for developers to not develop parking and build higher. We were able to negotiate to be in zone 2 where there is a requirement for some level of parking and not to build higher. So I just wanna say that those two things happened within the City of Yes conversations. There was also a conversation during City of Yes around accessory dwellings. That was a big part of that conversation. That doesn't necessarily apply to us here because we don't have those type of districts. So that's in a nutshell. I don't know if there's anything else.
Thank you. We're gonna move on to the next speaker, Kompatu. About 2 minutes.
Alright, hi everyone, my name is Hambatu, Inwood resident since 1995. Currently, actually was a part back in 2015 of the Northern Manhattan Not For Sale Coalition. Out of that coalition came a lot of projects, one of them the Northern Manhattan Tenants Union, and another one being the Northern Manhattan Community Land Trust, who I work for currently. I'm also a member of the Union of Pinnacle and Summit Tenants, so I'm coming at this as a tenant, someone who loves Upper Manhattan, because I feel like has been mentioned, it's one of the last kind of chunks of Manhattan that is any kind of affordable. We're losing that though, and so for us, when we hear development, it's kind of hard not to hear gentrification. It's kind of hard to not hear displacement. How do you develop a place without displacing people? How do you develop a place without accelerating gentrification? A lot of the things here that are commitments are reactionary, but we should be thinking about a preventative kind of approach, something that is more long-term, and not just because I work for one, but like a community land trust, that is an assured way of removing land from the speculative market that is always going to go up and up and up, right? Even if you do get some affordability, you can lose it. There are programs that have a deadline, so you can lose that. So one way to ensure that we don't lose that is by supporting community land trusts, and we have one here, which is the Northern Manhattan Community Land Trust. So I would say, how can you all help with that effort and ensuring that we actually protect land for forever, 99-year renewable land leases. That's a powerful thing in capitalism. Let's use it.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much. Really appreciate that. So I think, first of all, really appreciate those comments. I think wanna highlight that we are continue to be concerned about displacement in Inwood, which is why we developed the Partners in Preservation program, and this was one of the first neighborhoods where that was piloted. You heard a lot about that tonight, where we were kind of like directly working with tenants at risk of harassment to protect and preserve their homes. That program continues, which we talked about. There's a renewed commitment, that program continues. We talked a lot about kind of other services as well, the anti-harassment unit. Jamar also spoke at length about the legal services, so there are a lot of safeguards that we've been putting in place to stabilize Inwood tenants that I would view as preventative. As far as community land trust, that's also something that HPD or the city broadly is committed to. We have, a team at HPD that, works directly with community land trust, and I'm excited to say that the mayor's block by block housing plan has a commitment that the city is going to be taking a closer look at public land as opportunities for future partnerships with community land trust. So my answer to you on that is stay tuned.
I was just gonna add coming from a government and community relations perspective, I think that these types of forums and when you go to the community board meetings and while there was an engagement process back in 2015, now we're in 2026, right? And so hearing directly from you all and hearing about the priorities and interest in CLTs in future developments as we look at the housing, as we look at the remaining commitments, is important to hear. So I just wanted to validate that and offer thanks for giving that feedback. And as Sarit mentioned, in the block by block plan, there is a serious commitment in taking a look at CLTs, as we've seen in the Bronx as well, because I also cover the Bronx, and so thank you. That's what I just wanted to say.
Okay, next is Aisha. Go 2 minutes.
Thank you. Hi, I'm gonna try to be fast because we only got 2 minutes, because during the time of my tenure as a Community Board 12 member, where I served as the chair of Housing and Human Services, they actually changed the rule to 2 minutes instead of 3 in order to limit people's ability to speak to certain community issues, a specific community issue at the time. And so really what I want to speak to is process here, because I feel like I haven't been involved at this level in the community for a while. My brother passed in 2024, so it has been hard, but my love is still here. I've been in the community since I was 5 years old. That's a long time now, 1979. But I want to say that there are changes that I don't see happening, right? And I know we're talking about the Inwood rezoning, and there's definitely silver linings. I mean, there's definitely good people. There's definitely people that I have seen do the work over years, fighting for specific developments and opportunities for our community. But what hasn't changed is the disgruntled feeling towards people who are critics of what is happening when they've been here for the long haul. What you won't see in this presentation is the people who put their bodies on the line, the people who protested, the people who became friends and neighbors and fought and spent nights and days and weeks and months making sure that this community would be protected. And when they want to give input based on what they've seen, they're treated the way that I have felt I've seen them treated even here tonight. And it's 2026, right? And the truth of the matter is that there are businesses that have been lost to this. And yes, we know that the pandemic happened, but some of it had nothing to do with the pandemic. Some of the same businesses that came and sat with us, that took time away from their business to contribute for the benefit of those around them, their businesses are gone. There are tenants that are gone. There are New York Times articles that talk about how many people have been displaced, and we have to be able to listen to everyone so that we make sure that we protect the community.
Before I speak, I just want to call on the last 2 speakers, so if you hear your name, please queue up. Dorothy? Dorothy, if you hear your name, just queue up to my left, your right, and then Cheryl Panham. Allegra, you have 2 minutes.
Hi there, Dr. Allegra LeGrand, Inwood resident, major commentarian on all the various rezoning topics, professional climate scientist, and I'm going to critique your presentation because you did not contextualize your numbers, starting with Tiffany's comment that you use a regional HUD AMI definition when you know it's very easy to grab the ZCTA information from the census. So when you put that up there and you say 30 to 110% AMI, that is not true, that is not contextualized. For this neighborhood, our AMI is less than half of the regional HUD definition. So you should put rightly up there that that is 65 to 130%. It's just not faithful. I do appreciate you giving us some numbers, and in fact, your numbers were the only ones that gave us a hint of a time series. The time series analysis is how we know how the neighborhood has evolved, and you said nothing to that effect. How the demographics of the neighborhood changed, how the economic strifes and successes of the neighborhood changed, how things were speculative leading up to the rezoning, and how things were altered once things started in earnest. None of these things were addressed. We don't have any kind of good estimation of who in our neighborhood has been lost, and I don't think it's fair for you to put Manhattan Community Board 12 when you need to get out your line and timer data and get an intern who knows Python to actually do the GeoPandas, to do things that are tailored for the areas that are actually rezoned. And that's a conversation that you should have been having now.
That's what I was expecting.
And I hope that, one final thing. I found out about this meeting because I follow Dyckman Diaries. I did not find out about it because I go to community board meetings every single month. I did not find out about it because Wayne Benjamin and I are on a first name basis. I found out about it through Dyckman Diaries, and that is a you problem. Thank you.
Any of those comments? Okay. Next is Dorothy. You have 2 minutes.
Or more.
I second that.
Hi, I'm actually Dodie. Some of you know me. I've been here 32 years, a long time before the rezoning. I learned about it, believe it or not, from Father Robert at Good Shepherd Church, who unfortunately is long gone, and warned the community in church masses to please learn about this rezoning. I want you all to know, though, the reason they're talking about this being almost like a decade since the rezoning, it was not a decade for us, the people living here and the business owners working here. It was 10 years ago that the EDC or the CDC, I don't know which the hell one you were, announced the rezoning, the proposed rezoning, to landlords and the billion-dollar real estate industry in New York City. It was not for us to know about until 2 years later. And thank you for confirming, thank you for confirming that the protection of, to protect displaced tenants came about. It was approved by the City Council in 2017 under our formerly fabulous City Councilman, whose name I will not mention.
Say it.
You say it. All together. And it was passed in 2017, but it didn't go into effect until 2019, as you said. And the rezoning passed after that councilman did a $500,000 deal with the mayor. I saw him doing it at City Hall. That's when he voted yes for the rezoning. We always knew he was voting yes for it. Nope, I'm not stopping. I have a question for Yvonne. I have a specific question for Yvonne. I have a specific question for Yvonne. So we had, as Nina said, 14% loss in residents of Inwood. I would like to know exactly from Yvonne. Thank you, Yvonne, for the work you do in Washington Heights, and thank you for being part of this clock building, which I also helped fight against, part of Carla's thing. I'd like to know, Yvonne, exactly how many previous Inwood residents are now living in the Eliza.
Thank you, that was my question.
So quite honestly, I can't tell you tonight, but I can get it to you if you allow me to.
I think this needs to be
Wait,
published.
let me, first hold on a second. I think you all know that no matter what development happens in the city, when it has city funding, it must go through the lottery, right? That is how.
Which isn't fair to the residents
Okay.
of the area that's being rezoned.
Right, but I am sharing what happens.
I understand, and then veterans and seniors were also supposed to be put in the building.
So
How many of
just
those
like,
are there?
we can give you the stats of who's there, but I'm letting you know that it is not that we were able to come to Inwood and say, I'm gonna choose this family. It had to go through the lottery whenever, you know it, you know this. This is not news to you.
All right, go, Mike, Cheryl.
Okay, and then Cheryl, you'll have 2 minutes.
Okay, Cheryl.
Actually, I really appreciate you guys having this meeting, and I don't want to echo what people said already, but I would like to ask that you, HPD and DSS and all you city officials really try to focus on affordability and how we get the deep affordability that we so clearly need. That's the one thing that is going to stop the displacement. It's going to stop the loss of small businesses as well, because it's going to keep rents down. And my specific ask is that you think about this absurd 30% standard. And I know it comes from the federal government, but you have to push back politically. You have to, you know, in all of the advocacy that you do and the work that you do in the various associations, like their city associations, you know, mayor, you know, National Association of Mayors and all those type of government associations, that should be on the agenda. Because if you think about it, it's absurd that a building that received over $400 million in city subsidies and on the website claims that it's 100% affordable is charging $5,000 for an apartment. Well, that's crazy. That is so insane. But then when you back into the math, well, say 2 young law school grads who got their $100,000 jobs were sharing an apartment, they're gonna be paying $5,000 because that's 30%. Meanwhile, they've got student loans. So the whole thing is just like a house of cards. And I just think from a policy perspective, instead of telling us, oh, it's the federal government, you guys need to push back in all your interagency work, in the work that you do with other cities, the work that you do with other states. You need to push back and develop a more aggressive agenda. So that's it. Thank you.
Cheryl, thank you for that, and I think, you know, your feelings are, you know, city officials feel the same way. Like, we want to be able to deliver as affordable, as deeply affordable as housing as we can. And also in the block by block housing plan that was released, there are strategies to get at how to reduce rent burden for New Yorkers. And so that is something that we are actively working on and will continue to.
Well, thank you so much for coming here, for sharing your thoughts. I really, really appreciate it, and I know that it's not easy to take the time to come and be a part of this, and I know it's not easy whenever you have specific questions and you want details and you do not get that information. I, as long as I can, right, assuming I'm continuing to be the chair, commit to setting time to continue to talk about this. I will, again, invite you to please come to our meetings. It is the first Thursday of every month at 6:30. You can join via Zoom if you cannot come in person. And I will, as long as there's interest, I will put time on the agenda and we will collect questions, and I'm happy to do whatever we can as a board to relay those questions and try to get information back out to the community. I also really, really encourage you to, you know, engage other people. I think as a committee, as a board, are really making an effort to grow our outreach efforts to make sure that people know about what we do, when you can show up, how you can engage. And so really, please help us, you know, connect with other folks, and together we can, you know, advocate and get projects that better serve our community. So just thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Thank you to our city agencies, also, and to our elected officials
for coming. Thank
Wait,
you.
when's the next town hall then? You said there were gonna be many meetings.
I'd like to hear something about.
We are down for the summer, but keep an eye out, sign up for our email blast, and you'll get the information. You can sign up for our email blast at the sign up sheet here at the front. Thank you.
Public building measures, like,
I don't have a swimming pool.
like,
Please. Do you mind just giving me your information and I'll forward it to you know what?
I'd like to talk more about the climate policy, because quite frankly, my husband, sure, let me just answer that first. Thank you so much for coming. Okay, okay, I'll see you in a few minutes then.
I will do my best to do
Okay.
another.
Okay. Cousins in school.
I encourage you if you can, I know it's hard. If you're meeting with
Yeah, let me just see you at home. Just get your stuff at PJ's, I'm gonna walk back
our
out.
general coordinating for 2 minutes is not enough, right?
Yeah, we're gonna go here. Or do you wanna walk over? It's very hot.
Honestly, if you come to the committee meeting, which is the first Thursday of the month, that is where we can take the time to actually talk. No, I know, I know.
We've
Trust me, and I know.
together and we've been activists together.
No, it's a lot of talk for the community and have already engaged so much podcast, right? I think, like, realistically, what I can say is that we will elevate the message, right? We do have more numbers, so we do need folks catching up.
Yeah, she was saying the spirit feels well-meaning, and we understand that you don't have the institutional memory that we have, so we get it. So that's the,
And I think like to that point, like you all know, like community boards are only so powerful. And like what we can do is like pass a resolution.
It was nice to meet you. I would, although I'm pretty sure they will want me on the land use board committee, I definitely think I would like to help you here as well.
I used to be on land use as well, and when I started to chair this, I got pulled, but I still go to all the meetings,
Okay.
so we should definitely.
Okay, I like that.
Okay, thank you for coming.
There was no discussion tonight about infrastructure and what's supposed to be